Welcome back to the True Crime Lounge podcast. Today we're continuing on with part three of our mini series, so let's dive right into it. On, Ju- on June 29th, 1978, he would be murdered in Scottsdale, Arizona, while he slept, and the crime was never officially solved. The investigation ruled that Bob's alternate lifestyle, which included consensual sex and amateur pornography with numerous consensual women shortly before his death. However, he admitted to a counselor that he realized he was a sex addict and wanted to be healed. His counselor described him as a tremendous talent, someone who just happened to be famous and was wonderful and a wonderful person. Since we have talked about his career, let's take a deeper dive into his life, shall we? And what led to him being murdered? Well, he was found murdered in his Scottsdale apartment. On June 29th, 1978, his skull was bashed with a blunt object in the electrical cord around his neck. His death and the revelations that followed stunned Hollywood, hit fans, and although it has been 40 years, he knows, um, not a day goes by where Bob Crane Jr. doesn't think about his father. So Bob Crane Sr. had been the subject of a full-length feature film, several books, and numerous documentaries and TV stories. His case is popular on many true crime podcasts, such as this one, and an earlier YouTube post that was shaped a handheld video of the tour to Scottsdale condominium complex where he died. It also has almost 1,000 views. Now he was a leading man with secrets. As don't we all have secrets? Come on now. The once Los Angeles radio personality had one of the best only one hit television show, and it even got a farewell episode because he didn't do them back then, and the show there was only a few guest spot minor roles in a couple of Disney films, a failed TV pilot, and all of it which signal a generally downward career arc that led directly to the dinner theater circuit, which is how he came to Scottsdale in June of 1978. Um, First, it is still a show. The show is still on TV. It is World War II, settling many a timeless, and it's never really ages. And although the show was canceled in 1971, it has been almost perpetual syndication since. It started in 1965 and it is still a cash cow. And adding that he doesn't receive a dime, his son does not receive a dime because of his stepmother inherited his father's estate when he died. Also, his father was a very good-looking guy who played a hero, who also was a wisecrack and always knew the right thing to do. Audience also loved him and still do today. Um, This is in the nature of the investigation, which revealed many details about his sex life, and the fact that the murder is technically still unsolved. We may never know, honestly. The Jekyll and Hyde disconnect between the affable leading man and the darkly sex addict pornographer, who also made his own films, but also performed in them, feeds what Crane's life has been a yin and yang celebrity dom. He likened it shot to the top in his consciousness, and just then at this crash, suddenly after a racist treat. Now, Leo Bondi, a USC professor who teaches a course in literature, popular culture, film history, and it has agreed to that the double-edged sword of celebrity helps explain why people are still captivated by his story. He would draw a comparison to the stars from the earlier Hollywood eras, whose allure ended after they released sexual scandals. Charlie Chaplin, who had pro- who had a prolifically lively for underage girls, and Ingrid Bertram, whose affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini was denounced in the floor of the U.S. Senate. Brody said that the fact of the ongoing fascination with Crane is that the murder is still unsolved. I'm fascinated by it. I want to know who killed the guy. But Crane had been starring in the production of many films. Um, Many plays, such as Beginner's Luck at the Windhill Dinner Theater in Scottsdale, when he was killed, and he was found bludgeoned to death with a cord around his neck that had gone to Crane's apartment to work while he was some lines to play. The only suspect he is was longtime friend John Carpenter, who remained free for years before Scottsdale police um was able to charge him, and he finally came to trial in 1994, 16 years after the murder. But he was acquitted because of the question of forensic science in the case. Just last year, the Phoenix television anchor John Hook published a book about the Crane case and was able to access the blood samples that found evidence and retested. In his book, Who Killed Bob Crane, he set out to end the speculation about Crane's death using forensic science. In a way famed attorney Vincent Belowski attempted in his book about the Kennedy assassination. Hook also focused on DNA technology which wasn't available at the time of the murder and was rudimentally in its use during Carpenter's trial. He noted that the jury believed that the evidence almost from the time of his Crane's body was discovered in the Winfield apartments, now condominium in Scottsdale. Authorities made a critical mistake in which that later undermined the case. For starters, the police failed to adequately secure the crime scene. They also allowed his co-star Victoria Berry into the apartment to answer phones several times, potentially contaminated scenes. In addition, the Maricopa County medical examiner climbed over his body to shave his head and examine the fatal room. How in which evidence show a piece of which appeared to human tissue um, of Cardinals Rennick, the crime lab at the Department of Public Safety either lost that critical piece of evidence or never bothered to recover it in the first place. Hook says he became kind of obsessed with the Bob Crane case. Crane and Carpenter have been friends for years. Carpenter, who died in 1998, was a sales manager for Sony and then IK. And then they shared a mutual interest in the latest electronics with Crane, and they also shared a mutual interest in women and pornography. In Crane's apartment, police found videotapes Crane had made of himself and numerous women, along with photographic negatives of nude women. During the investigation, Carpenter told the police that the night before he was murdered, Crane showed him a book of the Polaroid snapshots of naked women, including some he met at the dinner theater. Police were unable to find Crane's apartment, and it was in one of those only things missing. The other was a camera tripod from the apartment, which had no signs of forced entry. Both Hook and Crane's son um, said that Crane had been growing tired of Carpenter, whose police identified at the start, and 2 days later, Crane's body was discovered and police found blood on the door panel of the car Carpenter had rented. While the blood type of Crane's type was B, it couldn't be conclusively linked to Crane, and the Maricopa Attorney's office refused to allow Scottsdale police to arrest Carpenter. Authorities removed the body of the actor, in his Crane from his apartment. He was discovered beaten to death, June 29th, 1978.